The danger in Ukraine cannot be overstated, especially if you're the president, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The Times of London reports Zelenskyy has survived at least 3 assassination attempts in the last week alone. A group of Chechen special forces plus a team of Kremlin-backed mercenaries reportedly traveled to Kyiv to try to kill him. But each time, the plans were stymied after what the Times describes as anti-war elements within Russia's Federal Security Service tipping off Ukraine. Igor Novikov is a former advisor to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and he's joining me tonight from Kyiv. Igor, are you still in touch with President Zelenskyy and his inner team?
I will say I'm in touch. That's as much as I can tell you. Obviously, for security reasons, everyone keeps asking, are you guys on the phone? Are you like Zooming, or are you in the bunker or whatever? Look, we can't talk about those things, but yeah, we're all in touch and we're all in this together.
There have been 3 assassination plots on the president's life foiled in the past week, according to the Times of London. Is security tight enough, in your opinion? Should the president maybe consider leaving Kyiv at some point?
Well, first of all, 3 that we know of. That's a very important distinction to make. Look, I think this security is good enough for one simple reason. The president is in Kyiv. Kyiv is home to, even if some people left, more than 2 or 3 million people at the moment, all patriotic. Most of them have weapons, and they're in love with their president. So I think that's the best security any man can wish for.
And you've decided to stay. You can see on your shirt, you're a dad, you have a family. These are really scary times right now in Kyiv in particular. You've decided to stay too.
I did, and it's actually an interesting story because obviously since I was an advisor to the president and I was dealing with the U.S.-Ukraine relationship, I got the information that, there might be an invasion. So I literally just sat my wife down in front of me and said, look, here's the situation. What do we do? Do you want to leave? Do you want me to leave with you and then return? What are we doing? And Ukrainian women are tough. My wife is from Poltava, eastern Ukraine. So she literally looked me in the eye and said, look, if the evil is chasing you, running away is not going to make anything better. So, you'll have to make a stand eventually. So, why not make a stand here? Because it's home.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, as a dad of 2-year-olds, and you have a 2-year-old, a 13-year-old, I just cannot imagine, and I think so many people around the world wonder, if I were in that position, what would I do? And I think a lot of us don't know that we would have it in us to stay. What makes you stay? Your wife is tough. What makes you stay?
You never know how you're going to act in a situation like this, right, until you actually get yourself into a situation like this. So, I keep describing it to everyone. It's I remember, the 23rd of January. So we were it was just a usual day, completely ordinary. So, work, dinner, some, chit-chat with my wife and nothing special. And we just went to bed. And then waking up next morning to ballistic missiles landing 10 kilometers away from you, that's something new in your life. So obviously, that's not the sound I've ever heard, nor is it an experience I've ever had. So you at first you're obviously in shock, and then you get yourself into a situation. So you find your foot and you find the information, because being blind, being without the information, that's the most challenging and scary part of this. And then you're okay, you quickly adapt. So that transition, once it's made, it makes you who you are. That's my answer.
You have known President Zelenskyy before he had the title president. Then you worked with him once he became president. What is the biggest change you've witnessed, I'm going to say personally, in the president since the start of his presidency?
Well, definitely more wrinkles on his face, definitely more gray hairs. And, he's become I wouldn't say tougher. It's really difficult to find the right term. Probably slightly sadder in the sense that, he was a really easygoing and, lighthearted guy. And now he's got all that weight on his shoulders. So, obviously, it's difficult to carry it alone. That's why I'm incredibly proud and happy that, first of all, his inner circle and the Ukrainian people and people all over the world are supporting him. Because, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. I mean, it takes a great man to cope with that kind of pressure. I wouldn't even want to imagine, what he's going through, seeing the numbers, seeing the faces, hearing about that, every single tragedy, right. That's being experienced by, ordinary Ukrainians. I mean, that must be unbearable.
Igor, the New York Times reports the idea is Putin maybe wants to pound Ukrainians so hard, make them so desperate that they go to Zelenskyy and beg him to give in, say, just give it up, roll over. I'm not asking you to negotiate here, but is there a point at which he would consider cutting a deal?
Well, I think you've got it wrong. I think, I once described Ukraine as a spring. So the harder you kind of push, the harder the recoil will be. So, with the Ukrainian people, inflicting unprovoked, indiscriminate, brutal damage on civilians is going to have the opposite effect. More and more people are going to want to fight. Look, from my own personal experience emotionally, the most difficult part is not, seeing your kids go through this or seeing death and destruction or, any fear. The most difficult part is trying to contain your anger, kind of knowing that, you're doing what you're doing, you're in the right place at the right time, with the right job at hand. So you shouldn't pick up a Kalashnikov and go all the way to Moscow. But, that anger kind of eats at you every single day when you see, the eyes of the kids, going through this. So, by the way, on this note, I keep saying it today, and I'll ask for all the help that we can get with this. I think every single company, especially the American companies that are doing business in Russia, should stop immediately. For example, Coca-Cola announced today it's staying in Russia and doing business in Russia. So we had major retail chains in Ukraine cancel contracts with Coca-Cola, and they should leave because, first of all, they're going to have 40 million people against them. 40 million people, the world is looking at. So, it's a bad business move. And, it's hypocrisy and greed at a level unseen before, because every single ruble that they pay in taxes in Russia lands on my kids' heads in the form of ballistic missiles. So Coca-Cola and the rest of the companies, you know who you are. Get out now.
Igor Novikov, message is clear. Thank you very much, and please stay safe.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye.